Alright, we're going to be talking about ego on self improvement. I think a lot of guys, when they get into self improvement, they start working on the habits. It's very easy to get a bit of a superiority complex, to think you're better than everybody else who isn't on self improvement. And I definitely felt this a little bit when I got into self improvement. It kind of started when I was about 16, 17. I had like a small online business and it wasn't really making that much money, but it was making money. That was the main thing. And I started going to the gym more. I was like, damn, I'm doing better than this guy, doing better than that guy, do better. I mean, like, the thing is, I don't think it's the healthiest way to go about your day, because when eventually you do find someone who's like ahead of you, like a guy who's higher value than you, whether that's in terms of like his physique or his business or whatever he's doing, right? It can very easily just shatter your self esteem, and that's bound to happen eventually because you're gonna find other guys who are on a high level than you. It's just a matter of time, you know. I think it's something that everyone has to take into consideration with when you start self improvement, and you can't let it blind you. It can take over your decision making a little bit, and it can inflate where you actually are on the ladder. You may think you're higher than you actually are. And that's what I thought. I thought I was at like this great level, I was doing better than all these people. In reality, I am doing good, but there's still so much room to improve. There's still so much work that is there to be done. I still catch myself not completely utilizing my time in the best ways all the time. I still slack off occasionally. It's definitely a lot less, but it's not perfect either. It still needs work. You know what I'm saying? So I think for anyone who's just started self improvement, you start cutting out the bad habits. So you start cutting out like watching porn. You stop cutting out like video games, but your friend group still does. Because it's likely that most of your friends that you know in real life, most of the guys around you in real life, probably are not on self improvement. They don't care. They are probably focused on getting girls or whatever bad habits they do. So, and that's kind of it. So maybe they're gamers or they just focus on their studies and that's it. Like, there's not really, I don't see much of a balance, you know? I either see people who are one way or the other. They're either going out every weekend and getting drunk, chasing women, or they're just studying all day. And you find a couple who are in the middle, but you don't find many. At least in my case, I'd say like only 3-4% of the guys my age think like me in the way that I kind of approach my day-to-day life. Like waking up early is normal for me. I don't see why I'd stay in my bed till like 10 a.m. even though I could, but I usually get up like a 7, right? With doing this though, one thing that does come to mind is you start to really, it can be quite unhealthy, honestly, because you can easily develop like a superiority complex, and then you think you're better than all your friends just by watching some videos. Like, this is what happens a lot, right? Somebody will start watching some self-improvement videos, and they'll stop the bad habits like a month or 2 months, 3 months, and they'll start doing good habits. But the effects of those good habits have not really shown yet. They haven't really shown as a result yet. You probably haven't got anything to show for that yet. Stopping the bad habits also probably hasn't shown a massive change from other people's view of you. You probably still act fairly similar in public, right? You're probably still more or less, because this is a long process, It takes time to actually change as a person, like completely, internally and externally. It starts internally in your mind, right, with how you approach things, but over time it will change externally, and how people actually see you will change. But you won't see the results yet, and people will think that they're so much better because they watched a couple of videos about NoFap. They watched a couple of videos about they watched like a self-improvement guide on YouTube. But the guys who have actually made tons of progress are the ones that they're not really on the devices that much. They're out there doing it, you know. They're not here trying to gloat. They're not stroking their ego by comparing themselves all the time. I know comparing yourself is a natural thing. You can't get away from that. You're gonna do it, right? And for example, right, you could see one of your friends, right, someone you know in real life, okay, and they're not on self-improvement. They're just like they naturally have like a decent build, an athletic build, right? You starting may have a bit of a shit build like me. Like I didn't start with a great physique. My physique was not great at all when I started. And eventually you work hard and you see that, oh, you're actually looking better than them now because you put in that hard work. How are you not going to get a bit of an ego out of that? Of course you are. You're going to feel good about yourself. And there's no harm in doing that. There's no harm in recognizing progress. It's only that people usually exaggerate things out of proportion. So if something bad happens in their life, they'll probably exaggerate the negative effects to a point where it's like paralyzing in terms of action they can take. So getting a bad test result, people will think it's the end of the world. Same thing here. You make a bit of progress and you get super euphoric about it. You just got to stay grounded. You just got to really understand where you actually are, because you're probably not that amazing. You probably aren't. Even though you're on self-improvement, you probably aren't. Like I'm definitely not. I'm just like slightly better than average at talking to a camera and interviewing people. That's it. People find it entertaining. That doesn't make me better than anyone else, you know? There's still plenty of things that I'm trying to work on that I'm still not that great at. It just takes time. And don't let your ego blind you. Student mindset. Having a student mindset. And each new person you meet, whether they're on self-improvement or not, right? Naturally you can feel that you're better than somebody else because maybe you cut out watching porn, you cut out playing video games, you cut this all. But regardless, you can still learn something from different people. People who aren't even on self-improvement, you know? If you have that student mindset when it comes to talking to new people, you can go in there with the rationalization that you can learn something from this conversation, from this person. And you can use that to keep bettering yourself. Instead of going in there like, oh, I mean, this guy's not even taking care of himself. Like, just ignore him. I mean, there is some truth in that, to be honest. But I think having an open mindset and being like, yeah, I could actually learn something from this person, that's only going to help you. I mean, I don't see how that's not going to help you in your life. So, I think keep an open mind, understand where you really are in this. Because, I mean, whatever industry or niche that I look at, there's always someone who's doing better than me in it. That's just part of it. There's always someone who's making more money than me. Always someone who's looking better than me. You know, doing better on YouTube than me, doing better in trading than me. There's always someone who's doing better at something, right? You're probably never going to be number one in you're never going to be number one in everything, right? You can definitely be number one in one thing if you dedicate yourself to it, right? You can like dominate one thing and be the best at it, but you're never going to be the best at everything. It's impossible. There's too many things. There's not enough time, right? That brings me on to another point, you know, mortality and like having a sense of I'm gonna go one day, and that like motivates you to really utilize your time. I want to make a separate video about that completely because I think that's really important. I've used that kind of mentality, like thinking about death, quite a lot to push me to do more than I usually would in my day-to-day life. But that's gonna be pretty much it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.